You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith Johnson.
Hey guys, and welcome to Metro Last Light Rewind, our game control rewind show.
Just hearing the music brings you right back into that
title screen music.
Desperation.
I know it's such a dark game too, with everything going on in the plot wise. But before we get to it, across from me, Grant Kohrmann.
Howdy, everybody. The one, the only.
The one, the only. And next to him, another tall man. You guys are both really tall.
We had to shrink our chairs. He's like, get low.
Get low. Patrick Dees.
What's going on?
I can't get any lower. My seat doesn't go down anymore.
And guys, I'm Dave Klein, and in the booth we have with us John Quick. John, who has not...
Ladies and gentlemen, I have not played the game, so I will probably not be joining in on the conversation other than to add a few bits of Russian history and Russian...
We'll take it. Do your patented shit-talking.
Did you bring your vodka?
Exactly.
When do I not have my vodka, or my whiskey, or my gin, or... I'm an alcoholic. Just call me that.
All right.
Call a spade a spade. This game does make you want to drink, though. It's not like heavy and like, I have nothing.
Well, when you're drinking with your comrade, with Pavel, at the moment, the whole time I was just like, wait, why are we drinking so much? This seems like a lot. But let's go ahead and talk about the atmosphere of the game first, because and the way that I got into it is actually you guys both recommended Last Light to me. I hadn't played it yet, and this game has been getting universally praised more than it was kind of an underdog. A lot of people didn't see it coming.
For me, it was like I saw the hype around it when it first came out, and like the reviews that first came out for it, and I decided to pick it up, and I loved it. I think it was my sleeper hit game of the year. I've recommended it to all of you guys here on the show, and it's starting to get down there in price. Like it's about $40-50 bucks. So.
Well, actually, this game was the reason that I decided I was going to be a huge Grant fan, because I came in just raving about it. And I'm like, this guy's good people. He's got great taste. This is one of those games that had been on my radar for a long time, because it looked like a departure from normal first-person shooters. It didn't seem like a Call of Duty clone, if you will. And, took a shot on it, and it delivered in a way I just had no idea. It's one of the bigger surprises of the year for me. Yeah,
and I got to say, like, I didn't play Metro 2033. I don't know if you guys played 2033, but it was a game that just didn't interest me. And I actually had a chance to I did something where maybe I didn't, but I had a chance to possibly be at E3 last year representing Metro Last Light, and I was looking and doing the read for them, and I was just like, man, this game just does not look that cool to me. I'm not that interested. And now playing, I was like, wow, this game is actually really good.
It's really shocking what they've been able to hide underneath that like veneer. I mean, actually, it's not really that much of a veneer. It's like this crust of like what the game is supposed to represent. Even Dimitri's books, like he's written them as like these dark, apocalyptic, like post-apocalyptic worlds. Like they basically hide this real fine quality underneath that. Like.
Well, it was actually based off of a book from Russian author Dmitry Glukhovsky.
Oh, you got it. Good. That's good.
That's
good pronunciation.
Thank you. Thank you. That was a weird way to say thank you. That's why I repeated it. It was because I said it so weird. I just want to repeat my weird pronunciation of saying thank you. And guys, before I go on though, we are going to have spoilers for the game. So if you haven't played the game, gotten to the end, probably don't want to listen. But if you guys have played the game, definitely chill and talk with us. But yeah, so it's based off of an author's novels, and that's why I think some of the writing is so good and interesting in the game. And the cool thing to me about the atmosphere of it, when I first looked at it, it looked like a generic first-person shooter, and that's why I didn't want to buy it until everyone recommended it to me. And starting off the game, the world is so unique and it's so well thought out. Like every system that they have, and when you get through the water area where the shrimps are attacking you, I was just thinking like, wow, they really thought of so many things. Like there's the little gate that they have to pull and tug down, and you see the pump system to do it.
The level of quality in certain portions of the game, not all portions, like some of the portions are a little bit thin, but the level of quality reminds me of what Valve was able to do with Half-Life. Like it's just like so emotive, and like the environment envelops you in this completely different world. Like I haven't been to Moscow, but
but you kind of feel like you have after playing this maybe a little bit. but
like everything is
But
like
I mean,
Red
it's not
Square,
even
all that stuff.
that so much just feeling like you're in Moscow. It's just creating this whole metro system of how would this work if people really had to live and make a society here. And that's what I thought was pretty cool about what they did.
I thought it was interesting how they had the competing human ideologies, right? They're drawing from the past and contextualizing it in a whole new way. For example, the Nazis in the game fascinated me, right? So they were committed to the purity.
They came out of left field for me.
Right?
Like, they busted through walls and like they just appeared out of nowhere and took me prisoner and took me and Pavel.
Yeah, you were just trying to like find the dark one, and all of a sudden,
right?
Yeah,
Nazis got you.
Honestly, like I hadn't read too much into it, and I didn't know that they were in the game because I didn't play Metro 2033 Beyond for a couple of minutes in the demo and testing it out. So I didn't know what to expect with Metro 2030. Metro Last Light.
2034 was what it was originally called, by the way.
Yeah, but it doesn't bear
title of the book, right?
It's the title of the book.
Well, it's the title of the next book, but apparently this has nothing to do much with Metro 2034.
Right.
He's writing a new book.
I know. The book is in everybody's bookcase.
It's like everybody's
yeah, that was great.
Has
that was great.
A Metro 2034 book. Like you find it in rundown houses and all that. So they do pay homage to Dimitri's books. But it's interesting that it's just an interesting amalgamation.
Well, but I appreciated the modern contextualization of Nazism, right? So they were committed to the purity of the human race, but not from like a cultural or ethnic perspective. It was the human dimensions, right? Like if your head was a centimeter too wide, you were considered a mutant, and they were going to put you down. I thought it was fascinating. They can draw from history things that you can kind of relate to and be fearful of, but contextualize it differently.
Right, and it's so interesting because it makes it questionable too, because the way that they're doing is they're all afraid of these mutant creatures who do, for the most part, attack you, and they are very it's not like a normal animal. They are pretty hostile towards humans, and that's what it seems like the Nazis are trying to wipe out, are these mutants that are
they already
killing
lost
people.
their chance. I think the Nazis represented more of the most militaristic out of the individual lines.
I'd agree with that as well.
And I think that it's really weird. Like as far as the animals that are attacking everybody and that had taken over the most of the surface because they're able to survive the radiation without the need of like the breathers and like the special equipment. You saw, I don't know if you guys you probably saw it, but like the guy that is fishing for the shrimps and then they bring back and then they're dissecting one. Like the people below the metro have adapted to the animals that are on the top. And Artyom basically has destroyed all the dark ones except for this one that you're going to find.
Right.
So a lot of the threats on the surface have disappeared, and it's more about like your fellow man and like how much of a threat you're like and how desperate your fellow gets.
But again, that's the interesting thing about the atmosphere and what they did with the environment that I think is cool is what you were just talking about, those little things that you see of them dissecting the shrimp and these new creatures that they've learned to live with.
Yeah, I mean, the world feels incredibly lived in and authentic in a way that a lot of games just don't manage to do. Like, I really buy into all the systems and structures they've put in place to survive. I mean, it's fascinating to me.
And we have Lions fan on the chat saying that this game did a good job of bringing the novel to life. First impression is that you are reliving the novel, but in game form. And I think actually this was, from my research, it sounds like Metro 2034, this isn't based off of, but he's writing a new novel, Metro 2035, which will be a novelization of Metro Last Light. But Metro 2033 was based off of Metro 2033. Yeah. So it's a kind of a series of novels there. But yeah, I think, again, the environment is really what was interesting to me. And gameplay-wise, this game really stood out to me because I wasn't expecting what it was going to present. I thought it was going to be a bit more of a first-person shooter style game. And then all of a sudden, they're like, okay, we have specific missions where you have to focus on stealth. Then suddenly you have very action-oriented missions with the mutants. And they did a good job of juggling it back and forth where it really never felt stale because they were constantly slightly switching the gameplay style on you.
I wrestle with that, right? Like, so to an extent, I think that shoddy combat can play into a design in a meaningful way. I thought the game rewards you for those like that stealth. The stealth operations, if you will, but I actually think the weakest part of this whole game were the mechanics. It felt like a competent shooter at best. I don't know how you guys felt.
Well, actually, I thought it felt like a stronger shooter to me than BioShock. I thought it was better well done than BioShock as a shooter, honestly.
Since we've done these rewinds and we've done the BioShock and we've now done The Last of Us and then this would be the third one that we've done, I would say that Metro actually has one of the weakest
gameplays,
shooter slash gameplay slash ability to be a stealth, because I really wasn't able to be as stealthful as I would have liked.
No, not for lack of trying though. I tried and then would lose it every single time.
I had my silenced weapons. I had my night vision and all that stuff, but they found me pretty easily for the most part.
I pretty much learned my silencers just don't work.
Yeah, no. And the night
and if you kill someone, you have to kill them in the dark. You can't kill them while they're in light.
Right. And the knife is wholly 100% a game-breaking.
Oh, yeah.
A game-breaking mechanic. It's
I'll agree with that.
You become invincible with the knife.
Okay, that's a good point. I'll agree with that because I literally would go I'm a ninja and just run around and knife people if anyone caught me.
Yeah.
I was like, screw it, knife. Because they really play off you need ammo. Ammo is very precious. So I was like, well, then I'm never using my gun.
Right.
Unless I'm fighting mutants.
Is a method of paying for things in this game.
Which is for
literally
guns that you don't use.
Literally shooting money into your opponent's face.
Yeah.
Shooting money.
But see, like it took me a long time to come around to this. That shoddy mechanics can play in a game design in a meaningful way when you're portraying like a weaker character, right? You're not maybe an expert gunsmith, and so they're using that mechanic to have it be weaker gunplay to say, hey, look, you're not you're not from Commando.
Yeah.
Thoughts? I don't know. It worked. I mean, it was a competent shooter, but again, what kept bringing me back were the competing ideologies, and that's for me. So the shooting mechanic was fine. Like I said, it was competent, but like I think they did a great job of playing out each one of the factions and really kind of understanding what their motives were and not thinking that anybody's really a bad guy in this game.
Yeah.
I mean, to an extent, like the Nazis are coming from a great place, right? I
Even
mean,
Pavel's.
Well, Pavel's kind of a bad guy.
Patrick, please repeat that.
I'm never saying that sentence again. never again. But no, but like they're committed to the purity of the human race. So like their means to getting there was obviously terrible, but like again, they're wholly committed to preserving humanity as humanity.
So I think though Pavel is, I mean, I wouldn't call him a good character because he does betray you completely because he basically throws you under the water under the bus where you're going to die just through the communists instead of through the Nazis.
Boy, man, and when he flipped sides on you, I was shocked. There was zero forecasting of that at all. I thought he was such a cool buddy.
I have to say, when I was drinking with him, I was like, this is weird. Why am I drinking so much? This is a little bit much. So at that moment, I was like, this doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
Does this happen to you guys? Like, did you have trouble telling who it was that was talking to you during the first half of the game, the first third of the game?
Because there's three voice actors in the whole game. Can we just?
There's not very much difference between the different voice actors narrating Pavel's voice, and then like you even had to look at some of the visual. Like I was looking more for visual cues. Like, okay, that's Pavel. His voice kind of similar to this other guy.
Pavel's voice was the one distinct voice to me that was very distinct because it was a little more high pitched and kind of friendly.
It's like Nico's cousin.
We will go over here, comrade. Now come over here. We are musketeers together, right, comrade? We are like the musketeers. It was a little higher pitched like that.
I'm gonna say this, Dave. Like while you were playing the game the entire time, because like I watched Dave play some of it. I didn't get to play any of it, but it sounded like myself and my friends getting really, really drunk on vodka and deciding that we want to pretend that we're Russian for the night.
Yeah.
It's kind of what it sounded.
And then I would have really liked. Someone told me that there's a choice of playing the entire game in Russian, apparently.
If you really want to,
I would have played the game.
Yeah, well, as long as there's subtitles.
There were.
Okay.
I did play the second half in Russian because to your point,
you?
I did, and just read the subtitles. But then if you go in and even look at the options, you can put it in Russian with Russian subtitles if you want to, and just have no idea what's going on the entire time.
I mean, the story though, and the way that he betrays you. That was a good twist. And there were a whole bunch of twists throughout the story where you don't really know who, as you said, everyone has these different ideologies, Patrick. You don't necessarily know, like, who's right, who's wrong, what's good, what's bad. It's very conflicting, and there's characters that you tend to trust in the beginning who you think are the characters going towards a good cause, and it turns out they're not. And they do really play around with that. And especially later on, like, at first it seems like the mutants are really bad, but then you learn that, like, the fisherman isn't really at all even afraid of the shrimp at the beginning when he's going to get you because they've learned to live with the mutants. So it's just like it kind of brings you to a society where the whole idea
creatures that freak the hell out of me outside of the metro.
Oh, the ones that would just like run into you, the rhino type of ones.
Everything. No, the rhinos didn't like the shrimp. Actually pissed
the giant shrimp thing.
Yeah, the giant shrimp.
And then the flying bat dude who would pick you up. But I mean, it's more of like you tend to find that the societies that seemed the best were the ones that had learned to adapt as opposed to the ones they were trying to preserve. They were learning to adapt to what they had, and they were learning to live with the mutants, live with their lifestyle, as opposed to trying to fight for, like, going out and living above ground where you need a gas mask to survive and you're probably going to get poisoned.
Can we talk about the scenes on the surface for a little bit? I mean, no question. I really actually enjoyed the slow-paced. So I'll take a step back. I enjoyed being in the metro and taking that, having exposition delivered to me through the conversations that people were talking, really just soaking in that environment. I loved that. And it goes this long way that you don't have any combat, and then you get out to the surface, and all of a sudden you're managing the gas mask, and to your point, these things that scare the hell out of you. And then there's the baddie thing that's you just know is out there, and it'll be around. I thought this game generated authentic tension better than games games have in a long time. I mean, I was panicked every time I was on the surface.
Well, I think
Every time I was on the surface, I was looking for there were multiple things I was looking for among ammo and weapons.
it's your gas mask.
You're constantly monitoring.
Canisters, I ran out of air, literally to the point where no more canisters left, and I'm struggling breathing. I had to take off my mask, and I'm and I just find one multiple times.
Well,
during the
what
game.
you're saying with that too is I had the same thing where at first it was so hard managing everything you had to do because it's oh wait, I gotta keep track of this, I gotta keep track of that, I gotta know the controls for doing this, I gotta know the controls for doing that. It took me a while to get it all down. But that also kind of relates to what I was saying, where how this is why I kind of enjoyed the gameplay of the game was because they switched it up so much. Because when you're underground and you're fighting the people, it becomes these stealth style missions.
Right.
Yeah.
But then when you're underground and you're fighting mutants, all of a sudden they have this idea of these spiders where you're flashing the light on them to try and destroy them as opposed to even shooting.
Fantastic.
Which is totally different.
Yeah.
There's not much that you do like that in the game. So they switch it up again. And then when you're up on the surface, you're fighting these mutants where ammo didn't matter very much. But all of a sudden on the surface, you're like, crap, I'm running out of ammo.
Yeah.
Crap, my gas mask is running out. Crap, everything's running out. Ah! And you're panicking in above surface mode. So that was what I enjoyed about the gameplay, was these sudden switches, and then it goes back and forth, and it makes it so it kept the game interesting to me beyond the plot.
Interesting. I do think, to your point, I think the encounter design's unparalleled. It does a great job of, there is a critical path, but it made me feel like as a player that I could go, oh, I'm going to go over and do this. Now I'm going to go over and do that, as if I had a lot of liberty to it. So
There was one fight that didn't feel that way, though, and that was the bear fight in the park. When you step down into that, I've said this about Last of Us, and then Remember Me before that. Remember Me was very arena based, where whenever I was stepping into a fight, I saw it from a mile away. I'd step down into the crevice, and I was in a bowl that enemies would start pouring over the edge onto me. So I knew when I was encountering it. Never before in Metro was I oh, okay, this is where I'm going to encounter enemies. And then when I got to the bear fight, it was I'm stepping down into a ravine. I can't go back.
Right.
And there's something weird about this wide open space, and then bam, the bear comes out across the clearing and just starts tearing into me. But
outside of that experience, you think the encounter design's okay? Yeah, that was
the mega shrimp attack. That was a perfect
example. The mega shrimp scared the crap out of me. I was like, no, I don't have any ammo.
So again, back to being on the surface, and what are the things that you have to manage, right? You're managing your air. A lot of times you're managing your light, right? So you can't see, so you've got to manually real time in the middle of combat. Potentially, you have to pump the light.
That too.
So you're managing all of these different things, and I think again, it was just tense. I found myself constantly struggling to manage all this stuff.
Again, though, that's another thing with the environment too that I found cool, and the way that they made this world feel very alive is the fact that you do have to. They have this unique thing that you don't really see in games for the light, where you have to pump it up.
Yeah.
And then you have to pump up your if you have a machine gun type of gun, you have to pump that up too, and you really have to pump it up.
Oh, the air-powered guns.
Right, the air-powered gun. So it's just making these different things that make it live within this world. I like those touches, those details.
I think that what you said, I think that's really where this game shines. Is it all feels so believable, and I think a lot of that's delivered to your point, Dave. Through those little pieces. I also thought the sound design was unparalleled in this game. You just did a breathing impression, but how impactful was that? The minute you put on a gas mask and the whole world sounds a little muted and weird.
Yeah. And also beyond that, when you put on the mask and stuff will get on your face, you have to wipe it off too.
The fact that they didn't just do that automatically, that you had to press a button, that that there was a mechanic to actually wipe that off, made it feel just so much more real to me. Yeah.
Instead of you just collecting it and it automatically changing out your filter for you, but for you actually have to remember to stop. You got a sack full of these filters, and if you don't actually stop and change it yourself, you could suffocate to death.
And you're constantly looking at the timer too because of that.
Right.
Because I was I cannot waste my precious filters, because if I put a filter in when I have 4 minutes left, that's 5 more minutes that are gone on my filter time. So you really have to manage all those mechanics with it.
Yeah, game was really tense. Normally, so I'll play an hour or two of games most nights, right? But this is one that, several times I would play for an hour and be like, I just need a break. I bought that Call of Juarez game or whatever, just to have something fun and dorky to play, right? At the outside of this just intense, this brooding atmosphere.
Yeah, and I was stressed while playing the game, which is good because it really puts you uniquely in the character's position.
Yeah.
With having to change out the filters, with having to manage your light, very few games have been able to do, because like you can go and play a game like a fighting game and it like takes you back out of it and gives you a little bit of a breather.
Well, the funny thing is with you talking about how tense it was I knew we were doing this show and I hadn't had a chance to finish the game yet, so I was literally marathoning through this week. And John was to be playing. He's just like, Dave, it doesn't look like you're having fun. I was like, no, the game's fine. It's just like, I think that's what it was marathoning through the game. I'm like, I just want to play it for 2 hours at a time. I don't want to play through 6 hours. It's too much.
No, it is.
It's too much with this game. But it's good. It is a good game. It's just not for 6-hour sessions.
It's dark. It's dark. Yeah, this game, the Metro series to me seems to, not be about hope in any sense of the word.
Yeah, no, not at all. But there's something that I did have a gripe with gameplay-wise that I do want to mention before I forget, which is the weapons in the game. And it drove me nuts because it didn't tell you what weapon you had and what weapon you had equipped. So when I would find new weapons throughout the system, I was like, well, I don't even know if this weapon's better than the weapon I'm using. I had no idea.
You know what it was? You have to look at it visually. Everything that you
no,
can
but
tell
but
about
the different automatics all look the same visually. I think of the different types of automatics.
On the ground, like there are some very similar starting bodies to create the rifle and the submachine gun. And then beyond that, like adding attachments just further confuses it.
No, but I'm not even talking about the attachments,
the visual details on whatever you pick up. Like the fully made weapons, the visual details will cue you in. Like you can see the sight, you can see the type of barrel.
I'm not talking about those though. I realize that I realize, but I mean there are different types of machine guns.
Yeah,
right.
There are different types of shotguns, and the different types of shotguns, there are ones that are better than others that have different details to one. Like there's one revolver that I like because it has 6 bullets. There's one revolver, not a revolver, but handgun that only has 1 bullet, one shot at a time. But I didn't know what the name of them was. I didn't know, and there was no visual cue when you're picking it up that I noticed. That made it very confusing for me. Like, I don't know if I want this weapon or not because I don't know if it's better than the weapon I have. I have no clue.
You can't just do a comparative analysis, is what you're saying. You don't know statistically which is a better
life.
But this is, to me though, like this is the one point where I'm playing a game.
I tried to make it like real life. Everything you do, you in order to check your map, you have to light your lighter.
That was cool. That was very cool.
Everything that happens in this game is about the way you would go about it in real life. It's not like you're going to instinctively know when finding a gun in the wild.
Yeah, you're right.
That it's more powerful than what you currently have. You have to examine it on its visual, merits. And like you can come up to the shotgun that has like the barrel and like or has the drum magazine and like the 4 barrels, and you're like, oh shit, that's ready to do some damage.
Well, I mean, I think
you see the silent shotgun, and you're like, oh, okay, the silent shotgun is like it's gonna.
But again, those are the very obvious visual ones that doesn't distinguish between the 2 shotgun types of like, is this the shotgun that's the World War III regular shotgun, or is this World War III like 2nd edition shotgun? Like those small details. That's what I mean. That was frustrating to me. And yes, like noticing there's a silencer and I want a silencer on my gun, I could pretty easily tell that. But I mean, okay, so there's 2 points with that where yes, you're right. I agree with you that this does make it very realistic. And I tend to think like realism is great. I really enjoy that for a game, but there are points where you have to still make it like, I'm playing a game for enjoyment. I want to have some things given to me.
It's just too dark.
Like, at the point is like, I just don't, frankly, like as much as I like games, there's not that many games I'm willing to invest that much time into doing outside research. So I know the difference between like this type of shotgun and this type of shotgun where I can visually see and be like, oh yeah, well this type of shotgun's better.
Sure,
and I know that because I happen to visually know about shotguns.
No, I totally understand where you're coming from. I mean, I agree, and I think there's a certain subsection of gamers that are going to agree with you. For me, I actually kind of liked it, right? Like to me, that would have broken the immersion if all of a sudden I could pull up a chart and I could compare the guns and knew this one did 86 damage and this one did 45.
Well, here's more of what the issue with me was. It wasn't that you didn't have a chart that said like this gun's better than the other.
Yeah.
It was the fact that the gun I was holding, it didn't tell me what the name of the gun I was holding was, unless I tried to trade it. Unless I tried to trade it in with somebody, then it would say the name of the gun I was holding. And the only way I knew what type of gun I was holding that I might find off of somebody is if I tried to trade it. That was all I wanted, was the name of the gun, so I could find out about the gun I was currently holding.
After you did the first trade, wouldn't you know that that's a shotgun that you see on the ground?
But what type of shotgun is it? Because there's multiple types of shotguns.
But you could tell the types based on their body types.
Well, no, I'm not talking about like the fact that it has a muzzle or it doesn't.
I mean, like the body looks slightly different.
It looks slightly different, but what type is it? Is it the type that's like, oh, I know for me, name is easier than the image for a gun. If I happen to have like, and looking it up online, if I want to look it up online.
Differently a little bit as well.
But again, I'm not going to know that without the name. To me, I just wanted to be able to like look at the names of the guns I was carrying.
Just broke the experience for you.
Yeah.
This is the one
I tell you what, though,
It didn't break the experience. It just made me so. I literally never traded in guns. ever because I was like,
Found what you worked and you just went with
well,
it.
it's because I was like, well, I figure what I'm having is fun because I don't know what gun I have.
Yeah.
It seems to be working, so why am I going to trade in another gun? So
I
completely
stuck with
took
the
out
silent
that.
shotgun throughout most.
Yeah,
of the game.
I did too.
I use
Almost,
silent
Once
shotgun
I
if
find
I
the
was.
silent shotgun, I just had to stick with it because I needed to be able to take out.
and
if
a
I was-
whole lot of knives.
Yeah, if I was fighting mutants, I was doing silent shotguns. If I was doing stealth, I was using the silent handgun, and that was
Yeah.
my entire play style. What were you saying, though, Patrick? I'm sorry, Patrick.
No. I just, this game's interesting for me because I can look the two of you in the face and say I didn't like this game. I think the game is genius. It's
Yeah.
expertly crafted, and you said something interesting. You said like, I'm still playing games. I still want to have fun. I didn't have any fun at this game. I survived, and then the game was over. So like, it's akin to a movie that I can say like objectively is an amazing movie. Requiem for a Dream.
Yeah, I was just thinking Requiem for a Dream
is a genius
Requiem
movie.
for a Dream video game.
It really is. It's it's a game. I don't want to play Metro Last Light again. I had my experience. I never want to see Requiem for a Dream again. Like some things you can't unsee, and I feel like that's that game. But I think this game is just expertly crafted in every sense of the word. It feels lived in. You're tense the entire time, and it told an amazing story, which makes me wonder why more books aren't made into video games because it feels like that's a great source material to build out a world. I can't think of any other.
Takes those
books.
developers to just like really like to love the book and then want to make it.
Well, I think here's the-
And then
here's the other thing
producers-
beyond that,
the
though.
producers to like come in and like greenlight.
Well, the
it
thing
and get more
beyond
money.
that, though, is a lot of the point of a game when you're designing and creating a game is you want to make it so the user has an experience where they feel like they're in control. It's like a user experience. You have some games that are very book-like,
Yep.
but you also have that element of like, well, you have to give the player some sort of choice, so to make it a game. And for some certain games, it's hard to do that, to pull from a book because because books are all about characters, right?
Sure.
A lot of times. I mean, it's also about environments in the world, but a lot of books have a focus on the character, where you have very important characters that. And it's hard. I think it's hard to turn a already pre-established character into a game without making it sort of like a movie game, I guess.
think you can.
Well, it depends on the game, and I think it just
Pavel,
depends.
for example. Let's say, I know this is not, it's a loose association with the universe that is the Metro universe, but Pavel, for example, like I thought was pretty well fleshed out.
If
I genuinely.
anything, he was probably one of the most fleshed out characters.
No,
in the
Pavel's
game.
great.
I genuinely liked him at the beginning, and then he flips the script on you, and you're like, "What the? Sorry."
Well, I think I'm explaining that wrong. I think
Yeah.
I think I'm explaining. I think it's more like take someone who's making games, right? And they take what did they want to do, and they're trying to make these new experiences with games. Where what can you do in a game that you can't do with any other medium?
Right.
And that idea is that interactivity of making it interactive. So. Certain books lend themselves better, just like certain movies lend themselves better to creating an experience where you can have it so it's an interactive experience for a player,
Right.
Or it's an experience where the player is going to get a different means of experiencing something than out of a book or out of a movie. And I think just when a developer says, "What do I want to make?" a lot of times they're going to want to make something that's specific to a game,
Yeah.
or if they know it's going to make a lot of money.
I think
Right.
Or they know
But their stories are well fleshed out in books, right? Obviously, that's the nature of the beast. And so, like, I just don't understand why that's not just source material and then finding ways to gamify
because
it.
I think it has to do with like if these games actually succeed or fail. I think they're really worried about like creating an entire offshoot series.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
like worried about like 2 years of development. I mean, if you read the backstory on this developer, it's even crazier. Like they were developing this on picnic tables at folding chairs, and the publisher Deep Silver wanted to come in and like give them like brand new chairs, and they couldn't give it to them because if they brought in any wider of a chair, which is any more comfortable of a chair, they would have had to increase the amount of table space by twice as much. And
Right.
then increasing the table space would necessitate a larger facility to develop in, and they just couldn't do it.
Didn't they smuggle
That's
in
so
dev kits
funny.
too? Yeah, I mean,
They
it was like
smuggled
made
in
on a.
dev kits.
Yeah.
They tried to smuggle in. I mean, like they had to bribe in order to get the chairs across
incredible.
custom. It's a shocking story of how difficult it was even to develop the game.
Yeah.
But they delivered an unbelievably polished game.
But
Yeah,
you know,
I didn't
they're
find
very
many bugs.
polished.
Some people said to me like I said like it wasn't a very buggy game at all, and some people said they found some bugs, but I had generally.
Oh, I
feasible
actually
experience.
did get stuck, perma stuck in a spot.
Did you?
And I had to return to my last checkpoint because I got stuck and couldn't move.
I'll tell you what felt buggy to me was that weird, like, out of place sex scene all of a sudden in the middle of the
I
game.
told him at the beginning when we were starting. Were you here when I told him that?
No, he wasn't.
No.
I told him that most of the sexual stuff in the game felt way out of place for me.
So weird.
like the stripper, and then like the scene with Anna near the end of the game.
With
where
the
there's middle
stripper,
point. It was just
I
like,
accidentally I chose accidentally because I was just trying to get through. I accidentally pressed yes to the strip dance. I was like, No, damn it.
It's so
I felt so
uncomfortable.
yeah, I felt very awkward.
It's so gross.
I don't think it was intended.
John
to do that
lives with me, and I was like literally looking back at his door, like I hope he doesn't
Please
know
don't
I'm
come out
watching
right now.
this.
Please don't.
I've accidentally pressed to have the stripper.
Did you come out,
It was
John?
intended to be that
You
way.
accidentally. I accidentally.
No, I did not. But let me ask you this: like, I'm picturing this like this is like the stripper. I'm picturing the mutant stripper or the mutant prostitute.
There's nothing wrong
No,
with
it's just
either
a
of these
human.
Total
roles.
Recall.
So she didn't have 3 tits. Then what's the point? I don't know what we're talking about.
They had some jiggle physics though.
No, like it was just like all of this and sex. Here, you guys to play games, have some sex.
I wrote in my review of it, I was like, it seems like some of this emotional elements in the sex was tacked onto the game. Like they were like, oh, we got to have it in there. Just throw it in, do a scene. And you know, it's weird because it was all mocapped and like it seemed like the stripper was a male mocap.
Ah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how they did Catwoman in the Batman Arkham Asylum was, Harley in
As a
Batman
dude.
Arkham Asylum in Arkham City as a guy motion capturing.
Some drag
But
queen.
maybe it's just a good, maybe it's just a good actor. But look,
It just seems so contrived. And can we say first-person sex scenes just don't need to happen?
I don't think.
I
think
gotta actually disagree with you about
love
that
stories
stuff,
in
though.
a video game, as love factored into these. Love stories in video games, that's fine, but it was these two scenes. Stood
was just
out for me.
gratuitous.
It stood out for me as like we have to have a moment where he gets it, and
agreed.
And I didn't get it.
If you built the relationship, I'm totally with you. Like, there's probably a way that
you
can be
don't see
tastefully
Anna for,
done.
like, you don't see Anna for like the entire
Well,
game. and
It's
all
like
of a
she's
sudden she
making up
shows
for
and
abandoning you on the mission.
First,
She's
as far as the stripper part goes, I had no problem with that. That didn't unimmerse me because I felt like, again, like we were in the Venice area. They had a red light club. And to me, it was just like that was part of what made this environment to me as part of the environment. It was very much an environmental thing.
It was the uncomfortability. It was more the way the stripper moved.
like one of those blow-up dolls in a used car lot.
Well, apparently all you guys chose to have the strip dance because I pressed it by accident.
No, what happened at that point was I actually fucked up and I didn't. I thought that like something I was doing at that point, like I was following Pavel after he betrays me, so I thought I was missing something at that point, so I had to go back through that entire scene, and I tried to see if I could avoid having to go into that room because I wanted to see it from a different
she just
area.
pulls you into the room
she just
immediately.
Pulls you into the room.
She pulled me in the room immediately. But I mean, regardless, as far as the sex scene goes that you guys were talking about, I'm kind of mixed. It was very out of nowhere, but I also see the point of like maybe this world is so desperate that it's just like they finally have a chance down to themselves and just that to have some physical contact. And to me, it's like it's just a desperate world, and that's what I got out of it. It's just this desperate world.
Okay, I get behind that. It just landed weird to me. It just seemed very forced, but I can see where you're coming from for sure.
At least like that's where I pulled from it. I didn't like say like, wow, this is incredible. I was just like, I pulled.
Getting into this. John,
like,
please don't come out of the bedroom.
Yeah, I was like, man, good for you, Artyom. But I was just, it was more just this thing of like she the one thing she said is just like something about having like that physical touch, and I was just like, yeah, it's just they're in this world where everything is so desperate. It's so hard to live because this was after struggling to survive after being outside where your gas mask is
right.
bumped out.
Yeah.
You're like literally about to die. It's like we could die at any
when
moment.
She
So let's
said
just.
it to me, I got sudden flashbacks of all of those female characters in movies who do this kind of stuff for no freaking reason other than they just wrote it into the story of the script.
But to me,
Meaning
it's not a writing in the script
that
thing.
action sequence took it out of me. You looked so great in there. Like, let's have sex.
But to me, it's not this action thing. To me, it's like this desperate world, and you need some sort of comforts and like enjoyment in your life. And this
my
is just
clothes are
something.
dirty.
God, it was.
What is like? Apparently, you have this like stigma against sex. Like, I don't think it's that horrible.
I just
like
feel
it's
like
just
this
like
game in
It's
general.
been a while. Let's just
This game ham-fisted it. It was just
I'll
so
be your wingman, dude.
bad. It was just so badly handled.
Well,
there have been.
Here's why it was badly handled to me. I think the voice actress didn't do a good job of portraying the emotion. Because I'm just like, I don't even know this character, A.
Totally. She
But
just ditches you in the mission. The last time you see her, she ditches you on a mission.
I mean, I would imagine they have some sort of history, but I mean, regardless, to me, it's just that like I just got out of that vibe. This world is so desperate.
Red Dead Redemption, like there's almost every game I play has like for the long haul that has open world, sandbox world, even a linear world. I have some kind of relationship with some kind of character. I mean, it's becoming just as much of a hallmark of video games as it is for movies. I just think that they didn't handle it very well.
Man, and goddamn, after that, you leave that scene, and then there's all those families that are like quarantined off, and some of the dialogue there was just heartbreaking. striking.
Yeah, the quarantine thing where it's just the chemical warfare. But overall, then, so I know you kind of said that you didn't enjoy the game.
I didn't enjoy the
but
game.
you kind of compared it to
fantastic.
Requiem for a Dream, which
right after the sex scene, you walk through basically that scene from Cloverfield where everybody is like,
it was
that's
terrible.
really creepy. I didn't, those two things juxtaposed. I forgot about that. Like those two things juxtaposed further highlights how awkward it was. For me.
I mean, I'll say
because I didn't know that's where I was. And walk out, I'm in a fucking hospital. Why would I?
It's terrible.
Like, hospital?
Sorry, what were you saying?
yeah, but maybe you're about to die and just like have some happiness before you die. But I was just gonna say, for me, I didn't not enjoy the game. I was enjoying, like, I mean, yes, it was harsh. Everything that was happening was very harsh. But I mean, there's still that gaming satisfaction of like I pulled off this stealth kill. I got through.
Sure.
Yeah.
So to me, I was
There's
still
some of
like
that.
enjoying it as a game.
It felt like systemized desperation, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It was rough. It was rough.
I tend to like challenging games, as you know. I love Dark Souls, so I enjoy challenges. I mean, like to me, it's like once you get through a challenge, you feel that reward of success of getting through, and I did get that with this game. So I still enjoyed the game, but I think Requiem for a Dream is an interesting comparison.
Yeah, I enjoy this game because of the details, right? That's the TLC that it experienced. So, like, did you guys see? You remember you were following Pavel through, and then there's like a show, and there's like can dancers and whatnot.
Yeah, I
And
watched
you
the
can
whole thing.
Yeah, it's like 15 minutes long. I just sat there too, and it was amazing that they just
Variety
decided
show,
to
Russian
build
variety
that all
show
out,
in
right?
Metro,
Because
yeah.
I got that achievement in Prior of the Arts or whatever it was.
Oh, it was incredible. But like, they didn't need to develop that many assets to some stupid show, but they did, and I loved it.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, wow, there's so much detail because they didn't at all need to do that.
Yep.
It's just trying to flesh out the environment. But overall, what did you guys feel about the game? Overall thoughts?
I want to ask Grant a question because Grant keyed in on something that I largely missed, maybe because I'm not the most observant chat, but there's a morality system in
There's
this
a hidden
game.
morality system.
And I'd like you to talk a little bit about how that actually works, because
that's
I
how
noticed
multiple
the
endings
moments.
do.
There's multiple endings in a hidden morality system. It's really hard to pick up on for somebody who's playing the game first time through. And considering the game takes as long as it does, I didn't play it again a second time. I was just like, okay, let's find out what this morality system is. But basically, you're playing through the game. You can choose how you treat Pavel throughout the game. And certain people, like you encounter that, the Dark One gives you a view into the mind of a guy who's on the other side of the door.
Oh, God,
and you have to choose how to, or once you bust through the door, you could kill him or you could let him live.
Yeah.
I tried to kill
What
him.
did you do?
I let him live.
I let him live.
Because like the game is not so clouded in that you can't make these choices properly. Like you just don't kill Pavel. You don't kill anybody, and it's better. The moral choices are very black and white. You just do good or do bad. But the thing that also affects the ending of the game is how many of the hidden chime moments that you key in on. So every time you're playing, you'll hear a ding, and you're supposed to, and it's not just one. On multiple times during a level, you'll have areas in the level that you need to go to and experience.
So when you heard this
otherwise-
chime, did that mean you successfully did something,
No,
or
the
did that
chime
mean
is
you had to do
somewhere
something?
close by.
Damn it! I would hear those chimes. I didn't know what it
I
meant.
didn't know what it meant.
So
for
give
half
me an
the game,
example.
and I don't think that like I don't think I got the best ending because my ending was pretty crappy.
Well, so first of all, I want to hear about your ending. Give me an example where you're walking along, you hear the chime, and then what's an example of a decision that you could make that would have impact things?
When you're in the ghost city and like there's all the ghost, like the characters walking around, the ghost characters, you'll hear the chime more often than I did in other places. But it also requires you going down a pathway and actually being in the underground. Like there's portions of that ghost city where you actually had to go into a building and then go into another room in there before you could even hear the chime. So you had to experience all those moments from what I'm seeing on the internet is you had to experience a good deal of those moments in order to boost your morality to a point where like you're like this good character.
So that's not a choice you're making though. You're experiencing. So it's not a binary morality system.
No,
it's just exploration.
It's like a meter. In my opinion, it's a meter.
So here's another
and then
thing
it
too.
gets filled, and I didn't get close to finish filling that meter, and it wasn't for any lack of trying near the end. And the latter half of the game, I was actively looking. By the time I knew that was a mechanic, I just didn't know it was a mechanic.
So bizarre.
The first
Why
half.
build that out and not explain it?
Well, they didn't like the guns. They didn't explain a bunch of things.
Nor did they ever. I actually kind of like the fact that it bounces in and out of that like supernatural without ever actually explaining it. I kind of like
those
that.
ghost images when you're in the plane with Pavel, which is really cool. cool.
Yeah, really
And then
cool.
when you're like,
Crazy. You get to see the explosion.
and then like there's a moment too. I was doing some extra exploration on my own when I had the car that you were driving, Regina, I think was the name of the
rail
car,
car,
the
yeah.
rail car, and I was just exploring out on my own. And I just like went into this room where there's these ghosts of hung like noosed up bodies. I was just like, damn.
God, did you encounter on the? It was one of those sequences in the car where you hear a woman screaming and
Yeah, I was trying
and
to
there-
find her.
there- yeah, did you find her? Like, what's it?
There was one that I did find where someone was trying to rape a girl, and I
damn,
wasn't
that
able to
was-
save her in time.
God damn, that was dark. I did end up saving her, but like, I can't believe that.
tried. I didn't
can't
get to
believe
in
that
time.
But
it
that's
went
these-
there though.
these
That is
moral choices that you had to make during the, and honestly, they did affect the ending a whole heck of a lot more than it affected the Mass Effect 3 ending. That's for sure.
like that's a bold choice. That's a reason why. I mean, again, I didn't like the game, but again, I want to evangelize
Okay.
this game to everybody that they went there. That is incredibly
Skipping to
dark.
the ending.
Yeah, do that.
Basically, what happens is in the battle for D6, the Nazis or the Red Line, right?
Yep.
They bust through wave after wave of troops and then the final thing that they do is after the wave after wave of troops and you think that you've beat them all
And you're
is a
cheering.
huge train comes barreling
Boom,
down through
right?
the middle of this like now defunct metro line, and it's been armored, and it's like they're saying basically we're the big military line, you are the like the relatively peaceful everyman line, we're taking over.
Yep.
And as Pavel, you have this choice, you have this panel set up in front of you where my ending was that Pavel has, or not Pavel, Artyom has the choice. He's
Artyom.
there on the ground.
Artyom.
Miller gets shot, right? That's his name. No, Khan. Khan gets shot, and then I get the choice to flip the switch to blow up the entire station. Or the military wing. The
Yeah.
D6
Which you
in
did
order to
choose.
and I had to. I couldn't. Apparently, there's other choices.
I didn't see any other choice. I blew everybody to
The
hell.
morality system.
So it's just like
supposedly-
entering the Metro 2033, where you blow everything to hell.
blow everything up.
I've seen tons. I've seen at least 2 or 3 other endings.
Yeah.
And where like you don't have to destroy
What else
yourself and
happens?
kill yourself.
See, now I need to go YouTube. Like I didn't even know that there were multiple endings. I came into this a little uneducated, but God, that's such a bummer. Now I really want to see those.
Well, I thought it was kind of weird because like there are a couple points during that last sequence where you can actually choose like, oh, do I flip the switch or do I? I'm looking like it seems like there's multiple cues that you could cue in on. You can't make any choices. You just have to. You have to flip the switch, or he comes up and shoots you. I think I can't remember.
but-
I never did not flip the switch.
I think
those guys can go to hell.
something that you touched on though that I do want to talk about is the exploration factor.
Yeah.
And I think that was big in this game. That part of why I enjoyed it too is that they really rewarded exploration in this game.
Yeah.
Like you explore out, that's how you get all the
yeah,
notes. That's how you find the
absolutely.
different like instruments that you can play. They get the instrument stuff, and it's I just like that they. And then apparently that's also affected the morality choices. But I
didn't
like
even know
just
you
the
could get
rewarding of
reward.
exploration.
I didn't know you can get an award for playing the instruments. I was always in a dire like, better stay quiet or you're gonna get.
No, I was
played
too.
everyone
Why
too.
the
I
hell
played
would start
everyone.
playing the piano.
I didn't realize until later on because like I accidentally pressed like the piano or something once
And
when I
it
was
gave
in
me-
like a
it gave me
silence.
one achievement. I just didn't know that I was gonna go and do it for the rest of the game.
Right, I was just in like a section where you're supposed to be silent. I was just like, crap! I pressed the piano,
Right.
and like when you're in those moments, in stealth moments, you don't want to.
Man, well, you know what's interesting? Just touching on exploration, like I love the fact that there is a critical path, and obviously the game's gonna look beautiful and like lived in. Like there's notes on people's desks, and the desk is carved like initials, and they obviously a lot of TLC there. But like even when you venture off the critical path, the art assets are just as impeccable
Yeah,
as
they
they
are.
would be. And so again, I mean, we've said this 3 or 4 times now, but this world just was so lived in and so
Yeah.
desperate.
You've said it.
Yeah, I'll keep saying it over and over and over again.
What's a better word for it? It was my word for it would
detailed.
be it was insanely detailed given the group that had worked on it. They should be hired to make another game. I want to see more from that development studio.
Half-Life 3.
And yeah, they should give them Half-Life 3.
All right, so overall, what were your guys' overall thoughts on the game? Like,
Grant, go
final
ahead.
I loved it. When I played it, I recommended it to all of you, and I definitely think people should play it. At a time when I was playing other games, like I was looking forward to The Last of Us at that point. I had just finished BioShock Infinite. I was playing a number of other games. It caught me off guard. I wasn't like, I need to play Metro Last Light. I need to play Metro Last Light. I literally picked it up off of a whim, and I played it, and I loved it. And the outdoor scenes where I'm actually like we were talking about, that stress you out, that make you feel like you're struggling to survive. I actually felt like I was struggling. Whereas
Yeah.
in other games like Half-Life, I have this ungodly amount of power. I never felt way too powerful in this game. I always felt like I was struggling to survive.
Sure.
And Fallout, you can feel pretty goddamn powerful, and even in BioShock Infinite, you're pretty much omnipotent.
Fallout, I felt like a baller.
Right.
What about you, Patrick?
So now I'm on record for saying that I don't like this game.
And that it.
But you should play it.
And something
It's lived in. It's
agree
lived
with
in.
the Nazis.
I mean, yes. Like, this cannot go up on YouTube. I think this isn't. This game, it presents an experience that you just can't find other places in gaming. It's incredibly unique, and I think people should play it. I think for me, it was one of the most immersive experiences that I've ever had, and world built better than almost anything that comes to mind. So, if you haven't played it, play it. Why are you watching this if you haven't played it? But yeah, I mean, I thought it was great. I'm grateful that I played it. I'm never going to touch it again, and it makes me excited about. It's one of those tentpole games that makes me excited about the future of gaming.
Yeah.
Again, if they can like leak this much out or push this much through, again, ostensibly 8-year-old tech, man, next gen's going to be awesome. So
Yeah. And then I guess on my part, I thought I definitely really enjoyed the game. I thought it was a good game. I don't know if I loved it as much as you two did overall. Like thinking it was this. I didn't get this like Requiem for a Dream type of experience. Like, oh my God, it's horrible, but you have to experience. That was what Requiem was for me.
Confusion.
But I enjoyed it. I thought it had good gameplay. I really liked the TLC, as you kept saying, that was put into the game. I really liked all those details. The intimate details, and that's what made the game for me. But I definitely think it's worth checking out. It's worth playing. I think it's a good game. I just don't know. I loved it, but it's definitely a good game.
Okay.
Worth checking out.
I didn't love it.
You said you loved it.
I didn't love it. It's so great. I was like, wow, that's so incredible. You know what I mean? Like, that was really great. I didn't cry.
So you thought it was a really good game.
Yeah, it was good. Didn't love it.
Yeah. All right. Well, that does it for this week's Game Control Rewind, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you guys want to follow us on Twitter, check us out at GC_Rewind. I do want to say next week we're going to be doing Tomb Raider Rewind. So check us out for some Tomb Raider next week as we talk and discuss Tomb Raider. And guys, with all of that said, go to our YouTube channel, Game Control Tube. Again, Twitter, GC_Rewind. And I'm Dave Klein. You can find me on Twitter at @TheDaveKlein. That's KLEIN.
And you?
you can find me at P to the D's, and you can also find us on iTunes. I've got a podcast where I talk nonstop shenanigans, pixel by pixel.
Crazy
on iTunes.
shenanigans.
Crazy shenanigans.
You can find me on Twitter at GAK.
And what about you, John?
Grant, by the way.
You can find me at NowQuick on Twitter.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next week. If you played Tomb Raider, come check us out. Later.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.